Before we begin the reading, I want to speak to you guys about something that I heard Alan Watts talking about. It's a Japanese word called kintsugi. Kintsugi means golden joinery. And what this refers to is a kind of mixture that the Japanese would make with gold to repair cracks in things. So, say, for example, a piece of pottery. Rather than using a kind of material to hide the cracks, they would want to bring the cracks out by putting gold in there, which would make that piece of pottery more beautiful. And Alan Watts was really comparing your trauma to kintsugi, right? And I thought this was very beautiful, very profound, wearing it like a badge of honor. Rather than burying it, trying to hide it, or sweep it up under the rug, which is a term we always hear, or try and fill in the cracks with something that doesn't allow you to see that the crack actually existed. What do we have at the foundation of the reading, please, Spirit? Ace of Cups, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces energy at the foundation. A golden cup. This reading is all about what each and every one of you is being guided to do at this point in the journey. You've reached a certain level. It's time that you truly step into your power and begin to speak your truth, whatever that looks like to you. The divine wants to encourage all of you to start using your trauma like it's a paintbrush. This is where your mission, your purpose, the whole reason why you are even here can be found. When you can take the most difficult parts of your journey, all of that trauma, and you can transmute it, which is the act of turning a negative into a positive and give it back to the collective. Now, there's so many different ways this can show up. So you take what resonates most with you and your path as a means to understand what it might be that you are being encouraged to do. The Ace of Cups, this is an energy of pure love, pure joy, taking the darkness and doing the exact thing with it that the enemy fears most, turning it into empowerment. A lot of you are beginning to feel the energies letting up. And this can really speak about the astrological transits. We're preparing to come out of these retrogrades. I started to feel it this past couple of days in my own life. It feels good. But I've also been taking the time to really reflect over the past year and everything that I have learned during these unforgiving transits. You want to ask yourself, are you coming out of the past year better or worse off than before? And don't base that on materials. Base it on your spiritual growth. The lessons you've learned. A lot of the things that the universe was bringing attention to in your life over the course of the past year were all of the things that needed to be refined in your life, that needed fixing before you can move forward on your path, on your journey. In other words, everything you have gone through over the course of this past year, and obviously beyond, but this is really what we're speaking about in this reading, has been preparing you for something much greater. And as we make our way through February, all of you that have been putting the work in are going to start to feel this. What do we have at the sacral, please? Five of Pentacles, Taurus energy at the sacral. Okay, so I just heard very clearly that there's a group of you out there that are still holding on to some elements of the past here. But it's very important that you understand past you and these situations is gone, is dead. So you need to stop holding on to what died with that old version of you. See, Five of Pentacles is that energy of, oh, I just can't. What about what happened back there? Right? It's that energy of holding on to the past because you fear the future, which makes sense. When you're not present in this very moment, of course you're going to fear the future because you're still living in the past. You know, pain is so interesting because it wants us to think that it's the end of us. But if you can reframe how you perceive pain and how you deal with it and think about it more as a bridge to who you're going to become and as an opportunity to actually embrace that new beginning that you've always wanted, the beginning that is here for you right now, staring at you in the face, but maybe you're hesitating because you're scared, because it requires you to step out with blind faith. It's an energy where you've been hoping, you've been praying for something better, working towards this vision of what you've always wanted for your life. The divine shows up, it's knocking at your door. Hey, we're here. You ready? Let's go. And you've become so distracted just in that space that you forgot you even should have been expecting the new beginning to show up. It can be one of the scariest things that ever happens to you when that new beginning shows up, because it requires you to finally turn your back on everything that you've always known. It's like watching countless tarot readings, listening to hundreds of motivational videos about a new beginning, and then here it is, and you hesitate. It's in these moments that we really begin to feel that trauma in a way that we never had before. It's raw, it's ugly, and it's very, very real. So real that when your dreams finally show up for you, you actually consider turning them down. For some of you, there's success connected to this new beginning. You know exactly what your life should look like, but you have been stuck in this cyclical cycle for so long that the idea of breaking away from something that you at least know in order to step into a cycle where you don't know anything seems horrifying. I'm seeing the Eight of Swords in my mind's eye, right? It's just energy of staying inside a kind of prison, but it's self-imposed. You don't have to be there. You're staying there because you choose to stay there. You know, it's very similar to somebody who's maybe been in literal prison for, let's say, for the sake of example, 30 years, right? The world's completely changed, and then finally they're being released. And they ask if they could stay, that there's nothing for them out there because everything that they know now is inside that prison. And this is exactly what I'm getting here for a lot of you. And it doesn't always have to be connected to people external to you, because most of the time it's something that you're dealing with internally. It's a mindset, which is what the Five of Pentacles can also represent here. A lack mindset, a limiting belief system. That almost 100% of the time is connected to something that happened on your path that involved another individual. But now, where you're at, this is a war that you're having within, because there's no one, there's nothing that can stop you from moving forward. The divine won't allow that, but you can stop yourself because of your free will. What do we have? The solar plexus, please. Hangman. Pisces energy at the solar plexus, letting go. See, right now, as we are making our way out of these retrogrades, you are being given a perspective shift. You are being given another vantage point, which is going to help you to make the decisions you need to make to push forward on this new path. To stay any longer in this cycle is a form of complete self-sacrifice. And it's not that you wouldn't have another opportunity, maybe at some point in the future, to remove yourself from whatever it is you are dealing with here, because I'm sure you will, but who knows when that's going to be. You may be so completely run down mentally and physically by that point that you don't even see the point, or the years may escape you. I can tell you, based on my own experience, that you do not want to do that. If I knew what I knew now, I would have made the changes that I only made 7 years ago in my life, 2 decades ago. All the signs were there, but I was too involved. I remember once I started to realize that some opportunities had passed me by, I found myself begging to God, please give me another chance. He heard me, but I had wandered so far off my path at that point that it was going to take a very long time for me to get back to that point where I could have the decision presented to me again. Thankfully, I got to that point, but I wouldn't wish that feeling that I felt upon my worst enemy, because it makes you feel that there's no point. It's a hard hole to climb out of. So, having said all that, if I can convey to all of you just how incredibly important it is for you to embrace these changes while they're here now, it will put a lot of meaning behind what I had to go through in order to tell all of you that it's not a place that you want to be. What do we have at the heart, please? Wheel of Fortune, Sag energy at the heart, and Two of Swords, Libra energy at the throat. Perfect. Now, this really follows what I'm saying, because the Wheel of Fortune here is speaking about this new timeline that all of you are preparing to step into. And the Two of Swords is you making the decision to actually start making your way down this new path. Two of Swords is very much an at the crossroads kind of energy. Do you continue down the path you've always been on? Or do you step out on faith and start making your way in the direction that the divine is guiding you to go in? The Wheel of Fortune here is speaking about this awakening you're going through in your life right now. And this feeling that the energetic space you're in right now is representing the in-between. It very much feels like there's a convergence of timelines. And I've been speaking about all of this for about the past 6 months to a year. And here we are, we've arrived. And it's always interesting when we finally arrive in this space that I have been speaking about for all this time. Yeah, I just heard the first step here is the hardest, and that's what it is, okay? See, this Wheel of Fortune is representing a kind of portal. It's like you're standing before it. Here's the beginning. It's shown up. It's like this is the divine knocking at your front door. We're here. Come on. Step through the portal. And you're like, what? It's actually here? And I just heard that you need to get away from people who only want to talk about the past, okay? Now, there may be things happening in a lot of your everyday waking lives where the universe is sending you signs. So it could be that maybe you have somebody around you that's really toxic, they're a bad influence, and they just start talking about the past, and in that moment, you just kind of have this realization that this person is not forward-focused, they're completely in the past, and that if you stay around them any longer, that's who you're going to become too. See, it's a lot easier for somebody to drag you down than it is for you to raise them up. And I quite often mention this in readings. Right? You need to understand that you've put a lot of work in yourself to get to where you are, spiritually speaking. Now, imagine that person putting in the same work. You almost can't do it. It's like you can't picture that person doing what you've done, right? Hence, it's more difficult for you to raise them up to where you are. Don't sacrifice your mission and what you were sent here to do to appease somebody else and their lack of growth. The best thing that you can ever do in these situations is charge forward on your path and leave them behind. And what you're going to find as you make your way down your path is that God is going to begin exposing everyone. Eventually it happens. You start to see the truth of who some of these people really were. And all of this is a divine act of God's presence in your life. You don't even have to do anything. You know, I get a lot of people coming to me for personal readings. They want to know things like who's doing black magic on me, who are my enemies, this and that. And in most cases, I'll encourage people to just focus on what they can control. Focus on your path, because those answers that you want to those questions almost always just come to you when you're ready to hear them. And usually that comes at a time where you don't even really care anymore. You've become this new self-empowered version of yourself. And then one day you just wake up and you get all these downloads. You just start putting pieces together in your mind and you're like, son of a gun, I never looked at it like that before. And then boom, you just start to see everything clearly. You start to see who your enemies are, what they were doing. God exposes all of it to you. And again, this one I know from experience. And I can tell you, if somebody told me that when I was going through what I was going through years ago, I probably wouldn't have listened. But now, at the space that I've arrived to, I simply don't even care anymore. Because you become so happy and secure with where you're at in your life. You're so focused on all the things you're creating with Source that to actually address some of those things or to put energy into that space takes you away from everything that you've always wanted in your life. And it's in this moment that you begin to understand why we are always told to lay our burdens at God's feet. He'll take care of them for us. You have other things to focus on. And this is what this hangman is really speaking to me about. It's like here you are having this perspective shift over all these individuals here. But it's something that comes to you after you let go. When you're gripping onto something so tightly, you don't give that space time to breathe and allow the universe to do what it does with it. Release the need for control over things you cannot control. All you can control is you and how you show up. And if you put all of your energy into doing that, you will begin to come into alignment and calibration with your true north, and everything else will fall into place as it's supposed to. What do we have at the third eye, please? Oh, perfect. The sun, Leo energy at the third eye, and everything will come into place the way it is supposed to. What an energy. There's these opposing forces that I'm getting here. This is a kind of tug-of-war between the darkness and the light, but it all exists within you. You have full control. This Two of Swords is essentially you in the middle. It's like, here's everything you have to look forward to, the future. Here's you right now in the present, and here's you in the past and everything that you have overcome to get to this point. Let go of the past. Make the decision to step into this portal and embrace this new path and your future. There is a tremendous amount of success on this table with this Wheel of Fortune and the Sun. And it's all a result of you showing these beautiful golden cracks to the rest of the world, however that shows up for you. It's right there at the foundation of the reading. So Spirit is trying to help you rebuild your life on top of a pile of dust that represents the past. A lot of you have been encouraged to turn to your pain in order to heal it. That's what this journey is all about. A lot of people don't understand that when you go through the ascension process, spiritual awakening, all of these sorts of things that we hear, you're being called by the universe to heal that pain, to address it, to embrace it, to love those parts of yourself that had to deal with it, that never knew how to compartmentalize it and move forward. That's what this is all about. And this is the most difficult process anybody can ever go through. It hurts. It's uncomfortable. It's lonely. But when you push through this with all of your might for as long as it needs, this is what it feels like when you come out the other side. It's in these moments that you're able to see a side of life and reality that you never had access to before, because you can truly represent the higher power working in your life. You have a new kind of strength and confidence that you never even thought possible. The things you used to care about, or the things that once would have consumed your thoughts, are almost meaningless. This is the path of an individual that has been chosen for something very specific. And this is why this path has been so horrendous. The past few readings I've done, including a reading that was released in the members portion of my channel, are all bridging together. They're all pieces of this giant collection of downloads that the divine has been giving me. So there may be some messages for you in some of those other readings. But if I was to really summarize what it is that I'm feeling, what it is I'm getting here, and just the overall tone of the collective, it's time to turn your pain into gold, however that shows up for you. What do we have at the crown, please, Spirit? Two of Pentacles, Capricorn energy at the crown. It's like, here you are making the decision, right, to move forward. And now here you are inside that new timeline, adapting to all these new changes. And the Two of Pentacles also represents this energy where you're leaving the past behind and you're stepping into this future version of yourself. And yes, you always need to be present in the moment. By being present in the moment, you're embracing the future. Rather than being stuck in the past and turning your back on the future. Very dangerous. That's unsustainable. And if you can take a moment to think about how serious that is too, I mean, that's like preparing yourself for the end, right? It's an energy of just completely giving up. When you start to move forward in your path, God is going to show you who these complicit cowards who are living in self-imposed prisons really were. Where we're at on this journey, you either have the guts to shatter the illusions necessary to level up, or you don't. And if you expect that going back into cyclical cycles that you are being guided to move on from are going to be exactly the way you always remembered them to be, think again. Because I can tell you, based on my own experience, that when you go back into these same sorts of situations, things that really mirror what you've already experienced in your life, it always gets a little bit worse. Because the universe assumes that you didn't learn the lessons that you needed to learn. It's like using up your 3 warnings. Well, what do you think comes after those 3 warnings? All hell. If you guys are being guided to make some changes, embrace them. Do it. You're not going to regret it. But if you don't, you will regret it for the rest of your life. This is one of these situations. You'll wake up thinking to yourself, God, why didn't I just go? Why didn't I do it? What do we have at the foundation, please? Hangman, Pisces energy, Bifrons. Yeah, I'm picking up some traitors in your energy, okay? Now, I feel that the divine is trying to show you right now who these people are, so you don't make the mistake of staying, whatever that means for you. And for those of you that are dealing with an internal conflict, something that Spirit is trying to get you to leave behind, this hangman is really speaking about you overcoming a kind of victim mindset, which can be this, right? Paired with this. This hangman I read in its negative polarity like it's a reversal from this particular deck, okay? So it's like an energy of being stuck inside a cyclical cycle of victimization based on what you've gone through. So instead of turning your trauma into this, you're marinating in it, and it looks a lot like that. And this card is always interesting to me because I feel it really shows the end result of not releasing the trauma. The fact that the illustration looks like a homeless person, right? Look, they've got one leg. And it almost gives the energy of, well, I'm sure that just about all of you out there have spoken to a homeless person before and been taken aback by how intelligent maybe some of them might have been, or maybe they had a really great story, and you leave that conversation thinking to yourself, how did they end up there? This is what this feels like, okay? Now, that's really extreme, but that's how I read tarot. It's very polarized because the messages here that I'm channeling are trying to bring forward encouragement to make the changes and to understand what all of this can develop into if you don't actually set forward on that new path, having made those changes. So we're looking at the greater picture here, okay? What do we have at the sacral? And then we have the King of Wands, Asmodeus, Aries, Leo, Sag energy. I feel as though this energy here, which is one of the nastiest energies in the tarot, it reads as King of Wands in reverse. Very overbearing energy, but I feel that this energy could represent what led to this, right? So let's say you dealt with a situation that was very traumatic. Maybe it was family dynamics. Maybe it was something that was very abusive. Maybe this was one of the authority in your life. Placed as it fits. This is just an example. This is the result of all of this. And this is you now in present day when quite possibly this person isn't even around you anymore, hanging on to that energy. It's like they may as well still be in your life if they're not, because everything they have done to you is still very much with you. And this is a kind of spiritual poverty. You're allowing all of the traumatic events on your path to influence and impact you in a way that disempowers you in the present moment. So you want to turn all that around and use it to empower yourself. And once you figure out how to do this, as you make your way down your path and you deal with other situations that may bring trauma into your life, which will happen, it's just a part of life, you'll deal with them differently. They won't affect you the same way they once did. You'll immediately recognize it, diffuse it, and transmute it almost instantly. For example, when I deal with things in my life that are meant to cause trauma or heartache or disappointment, I quickly recognize it and I try to extract an empowering message that I almost always integrate into my readings, which thousands of you watch. So this is a really simple example that I can give you of this sort of thing now at play to empower others. And when you figure this out, sky's the limit. There's nothing that can stop you. There's nothing that you can't not do on your path. You will start to realize that when you are able to face that pain, there's tremendous power that you can draw from it, tremendous beauty that you can give back to the world. The exact process of making diamonds out of coal. And it's so interesting because diamonds are obviously incredibly valuable. And so is this. Each one of you has a story. Each one of you has been through ups and downs. Each one of you has had to deal with the realities of having to face your pain to be able to move forward. But once you start to understand that facing that pain brings tremendous blessings and gifts along with doing so, you will have a complete shift in how you interface with your reality and life in general. Your pain is not the end of you. It's a bridge to who you are going to become. What do we have of the solar plexus, please? Knight of Pentacles at the solar plexus. Now, this Knight of Pentacles from this deck is a very self-serving, very stubborn energy. This is someone who resists compromise. It's either their way or no way. This is that energy that will drag you down before you raise them up. And look, there's even a weight. It's like a counterweight on this energy here. And it's so interesting how their face is the sun, but it's not really the sun. They're just pretending to be. It's like oh, wow. I was getting ready to say it's like the upside down, and then we have you hanging upside down right above it. This is what you're starting to have perspective around now. It's basically you seeing that there's a better way than all of this. This is not your lot in life. This is not the life you have to live. And this is something that comes from divine intervention. So when God comes into your life and shows you there's a better way, you just start to receive downloads. You start to have ideas and dreams about things. You start to feel it just like a fire in your belly. You know that you've got to go. And for those of you that are dealing with situations where you feel very stuck, which are obviously not happy, you need to construct a solid plan and slowly start chipping away at the prison you find yourself in until you're free. There's always a way out. Sometimes it takes time. But I can tell you this, that the sooner you start chipping away at that prison you find yourself in, the sooner you're going to be looking back at that moment in complete shock that it went by as quick as it did. And then right on the bottom of the deck, I have the devil, Moloch. And look, he's waving at you, right? Makes one worse off than ever before. Tricks mortals into being bound. Accepts child sacrifice. So it's like this energy here has you stuck in this karmic loop. Year after year, everything is the same. Maybe it's just getting a little bit worse. And it's all connected to this trauma right here. Accepts child sacrifice. Now, that could really speak about Maybe this energy here put you through something when you were younger, okay? There's obviously many layers to that. It's going to be different for everybody. But that's pretty common. And when you start to get on the other side of it, you begin to realize that the devil here, which is, well, it's a mindset. It's a kind of consciousness, right? We have Christ consciousness, and there's also devil consciousness. It's a way of being, right? It's a way of living. And it's like this energy possessed this energy here. And this energy here it's a very violent energy. And see how it almost looks like they're spitting, right? I've mentioned this before. So I dealt with an energy like this when I was a child, and this person used to scream. And when they would scream, they would spit everywhere. They would just spray everybody, right? Maybe you've dealt with somebody like that. Somebody who is hyper violent. They would just completely lose themselves. Just frothing at the mouth. Something. Picking up on something here. Okay, I'm also hearing for some of you, it's a relationship you're dealing with. When I was a child and I would deal with this person, I was terrified of them. But now when I think about this person or just people like this in general, I see them completely different. I mean, these are the cowards. There's nothing there to fear at all. They just completely lose themselves. They can't compose themselves. They're nobody to be afraid of. But I feel for a lot of you, it's turned you into a peaceful kind of warrior. When you face situations in your life now that would see most people get angry and lose themselves, you have a way of calming that rage, which is much more effective at diffusing these situations. What do we have at the heart, please? Andrelephus. Queen of Swords, red in its negative polarity. Unhappy voyage. So the Queen of Swords from this deck is the pathological liar of the tarot. It's somebody who's pretending to be something they are not. And I feel that this is part of the act of trying to get you to stay in this situation. And or this is something that, well, I just heard it's like your mind playing tricks on you. Trying to tell you that something's not as bad as it is or something along these lines. It's also an energy that wants to convince you that you're not seeing things correctly. I really feel that this energy is doubling down, doing everything it possibly can to stop you from moving forward. And that's typically what will start to flood through in that 11th hour. You'll start to question yourself. Am I seeing things correctly? Maybe it's me, You start to blame yourself. So just know if you're feeling that way, obviously depending on your situation, this is what's taking place. There's a process to trying to stop you from moving forward. And a lot of the time, if not all of the time, it's all going to take place in your mind. It's a war for your mind. And then we have Amabia, which is the world, fountain of wisdom. So we have the world stacked with the Wheel of Fortune. This is a massive energy here, and it's right there, smack dab in the center of the reading at the heart chakra. This cycle that we're picking up here is coming to an end. Just like I have been saying throughout this entire reading. That's what the Wheel of Fortune represents, completion. You've completed this leg of your mission, but you're not going to see it that way until you move on from it. The act of moving on has a way of ripping back the veil, ripping the mask off, whoever this is here, or something similar, right? You just finally see it. It can't hide from you anymore. If you cut people off and your life gets better, what does that tell you? It was them. This is something that I think about a lot, to be honest with you guys, because I dealt with layered forms of gaslighting from the time that I was, all the way back to my first memories up until, 7 or so years ago. I was always made to feel like it was me or there was something wrong with me or my perception was off, but it wasn't. It was spot on. Because once I cut those people out of my life, everything changed. I actually was able to attain success in my life that has continued year after year, just grown little by little, a steady progression toward the future. And so sometimes I catch myself thinking about certain things that people would say to me. You know, those things that unearth themselves from the deep recesses of your subconscious mind and just start rattling around. We all deal with that stuff. And I hear those things that they would say to me. And the gaslighting, just how vile it was. It sometimes causes me to become a little bit upset because I think about that version of myself that listened to those people because I didn't know any better. And I also wanted to trust them. I wanted to think that they had my best interest in mind. But unless you were blessed with very loving family members, this is just not the case a lot of the times. However, it leads you to something incredibly powerful and valuable, and that's that space that you enter when you have nobody to rely on but yourself. And there's nothing more powerful than that because you can't be stopped, ever. There's nothing that can ever take you down. You don't need anybody. Fountain of wisdom. That's what all of this has brought you. Invaluable wisdom. What do we have at the throat? Oh, perfect. 10 of Pentacles, Virgo energy at the throat. Manadel, the honorable God, inner and outer work, protects against disasters. Now, the 10 of Pentacles, which is one of the wealthiest cards in the tarot, if not the only other one is the Ace of Pentacles, but they're different because Ace of Pentacles to me is more like hand of God. It's a blessing from the divine. 10 of Pentacles is essentially the result of that blessing from the divine. The divine shows you how to do something and you go out and you get it yourself. It also represents generational wealth. So depending on what your situation is, where you're at in life, this is you building something like that. And it doesn't always have to be material. It could be energetic. See, I'm an energy reader, so the cards for the most part represent different kinds of energy that you have access to. And then we obviously have a way that we compartmentalize these energies into material things in our life. But overall, there's an energy here of a complete legacy that you have access to. And it all has to do with this. The chalice with the golden cracks. Amazing. What do we have at the third eye, please, Spirit? 8 of Cups, Pisces energy at the third eye. EIL, God, the pleasure of man's children. Transformation gives consolation in adversity. And see how you're turning over this jug, right? A water jug. The water represents love in the tarot, emotions. It's like there's nothing in there. It's just dust. Yeah, I just heard, again, they didn't love you enough to want to change, right? This is what you are having to accept now. And, you know, the 8 of Cups speaks about moving on, just finally abandoning this situation and withdrawing, okay? Nothing is going to change with them, but make no mistake, you will be the one that has to change to fit into their life, and it will not be for the better. A major downgrade. Energy of completely unraveling all the work you have done on yourself up until this very moment. Don't turn back, okay? It's time to burn this bridge once and for all, because even though that's a harsh statement, I feel that in some of your cases, it's required here. You can't have these people in your energy or in your life because of how extreme their actions have been towards you. There's no place for them anymore. They will now be defined on what they did to you. They have to wear it. What do we have at the crown to close out the reading, Spirit? Too many cards. Justice, Libra energy at the crown, and I only read these cards as uprights, just like I only read these cards as reversals, no matter which way they fall out, okay? But the Justice at the crown here is speaking about a complete rebalancing that's taking place in your life. The past and the future are showing up as the scales of justice here. And see how she's blindfolded, right? There's a connection between this Two of Swords and this Justice card. Two swords representing two paths. The scales now tipping in your favor for you. And then blind faith. And justice is blind, right? So I feel that this really speaks about the need for you to disassociate from the person that you have always known this person to be, which leads to you accepting their behavior or their treatment towards you. It's time for you to treat yourself fairly and to see their actions for what they truly are. Do not give them a pass because they're your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your best friend, because they'll keep doing it over and over again, keeping you in that same cyclical cycle of lack as a means to expose you to the narcissistic cycle of building you up and tearing you down time and time again. You have a responsibility to yourself and to the divine. You are here on a mission. And though you may see it as harmless to forgive and accept them for who they are and stay in this cycle, you're sacrificing so much more than yourself. So don't you forget that. The divine is counting on you to stand up for yourself, stand in your power, and charge towards this new beginning. You have an unbelievable energy waiting for you. And I certainly hope that you're able to take the encouragement that you need from this reading to go and get it. This is the message I have available to all of you, depending on where you are on this timeline, should you choose to accept. I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you would like a personal reading, you can find all of my contact details in the description below this video. And thank you for your donations. Take care.